Welcome to the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. We're going to explore ways to sharpen our diagnostic skills, find learning resources, and hear from experts in the automotive field. Hey, what's going on, automotive world? Welcome to another episode of the Automotive Diagnostic Podcast. My name is Sean Tipping. I'll be your host once again for today's episode. Joining me on the show this week is Tomi Oliva. You guys all know Tommy. He's been on the show several times before. Always a pleasure to get to talk to him. A very knowledgeable guy in the automotive field. He owns a shop, runs a mobile business out of Chicago. Today, we're going to sit down and talk about used control modules. And so this would be a replacement control module that has been scavenged from another vehicle, and we're going to try to make it work in this broken vehicle. We're replacing a module with a used control module. Now, there are some significant obstacles that you run into just attempting to try to make this work. So we're going to talk about some of those. How do you know if you can go used in a certain application? What kind of tooling is required? What kind of knowledge is required? And how do we figure out some of the stuff that we haven't even attempted yet, or maybe no one's even attempted yet? Where do you go with that? So this is a great conversation. And again, Tommy's very knowledgeable on this subject. But with that out of the way, let's jump in. What's up, Tommy?
What's cracking?
Not much. Busy. Did you ever have a day where everything you touch goes to shit and does not work right and everything is problematic?
Seems to be
that was my yesterday.
I think whatever these hippies call it, Mercury is in retrograde or whatever bullshit they want to say. But yeah, man, there's something in the air, man, because I've had a shit few weeks, man. I've had a bunch of shitty weeks.
Yeah.
Starting from shops misdiagnosing their junks, and then it's my problem for some reason, you know.
Oh, I definitely know how that goes. I put 3 used transmissions in this car. It still doesn't shift right. It must be your programming. Okay.
No, it's never their piece of shit rebuilt transmission. It's always your programming, or it has to be electrical.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's definitely the PCM that's causing this thing to slip when it goes into third.
Yep.
No, I had a really crappy day yesterday. Everything I touched went to hell. And like that happens. That's part of, I don't know, any job, and especially what we do. But I thought it was almost comical. Like today, the pendulum swung the complete opposite direction, and everything was smooth as silk. I couldn't believe it. I almost didn't want to like say anything, or I need to knock on wood, because like every job I went to was great. I solved 2 like problem child cars that I've had for a little while now, and I was like, okay, this is like the universe correcting itself for my shitty day yesterday. But it was like polar opposites from Thursday to Friday. I couldn't believe it.
I have a Mercedes, an 03 junk, which I don't know why I even took it on, or a parasitic draw that's been eating my lunch for 3 weeks. I have a Mitsubishi Endeavor that's been eating my lunch for 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And I have a Kia Sorento that's been eating my lunch for 3 weeks. So yeah, plus the amounts of piles of crap that have been dumped on my table since I was out of town for 2 weeks.
Yeah, you were down in New Orleans?
Yes, sir.
What's happening down there?
My first expansion.
That's awesome.
I was able to actually drum up some business. A couple of programming gigs, a couple keys. My best friend that lives down there, he's running point for me, and I'm just he's pretty intelligent, but he doesn't know jack about programming. So I'm gonna be running point from here.
Doing stuff remotely. That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I might be wasting my time, but it's a great learning experience for sure.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I feel like once they figure out the connection, the latency and stuff like that, I don't know what's involved in that, but it's going to become crazy popular once they smooth it out.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Their mobile programming will be dead soon, in my opinion. There's gonna be too many easy access to remote systems, and like I don't particularly use remote system for my guy. I actually ended up buying doubles of my tooling, and I'm just logging into his laptop. That way, I don't have any unforeseen issues.
I gotcha. Okay.
Keep everything. It's more of me than anything. Like the remote programming, there's a few of them out there that they're working pretty well. I just don't. I don't want any hiccups. Starting off, because things can happen. Internet can get kind of spotty at times. Stuff like that.
Yep.
And especially since he's going to be on the road. So I figured that was my best bet.
Okay. All right. So you're just doing like a team viewer style thing and hitting the buttons. Cool.
Yeah, he's going to be there, set up, get out, get paid.
Nice.
Yeah, man. I hope it goes well.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, it's at the moment there's such a huge need for that stuff, especially on the programming side.
I did learn something very interesting while I was scouting shops. It was the theme of used modules.
Yeah.
So I ran into a couple of trans shops because here trans shops are some of my, the trans shops are pretty decent customers, for programming. Not for Diag, but for programming for sure.
Yeah.
And so, this one's, this guy was kind of a jerk. We're going back and forth and, he's like, yeah, I told him, hey, if you ever have to, put in a used module or whatever, oh, I have all, OE equipment, blah, blah, blah. But yet he was in his driveway doing a NERS on a NERS programming event on a older Pathfinder.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, you're well equipped, all right, with the old Autel J-Box, not even the newer one.
Oh, wow.
The old one. I was like, all right, but no worries, man. I don't care. I mean, I'm just no skin off my teeth. But the conversation was very interesting. So like, I like hearing other people's takes on new stuff. Like for the most part, I'd say it's like, okay, it depends on what it is. Like what are you gonna do? Like, you got to get the car out. You got to get the car out. Like, so that's kind of what the point I was trying to make is like, oh, we don't do none of that. Like, we send that down the road. Well, one of the jobs that we were able to do was an IO terminal clone job because the guy, they sent him what is it called? A remanufactured 6L80, and it had a calibration file in the TECM.
Oh, okay.
So he said, man, he's like, I had wrap out here. I sent it to the dealer. They towed it back saying that, something's wrong and they don't want to pay for a new TECM. So I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, we can help you out. Try me out. And he did, and he was happy. So it was funny because that was one trans shop, and then the other trans shop was the polar opposite. So then it's like, what's right? What about, what's right? What isn't right? What do you do? What don't you do? And just got me pondering about, like, am I like, is it good or is it bad? Like, is it something that should be even like offered? But then it's like, well, what are you gonna do? Like, I had a customer who's one of the dumpster fires I had waiting for me. 2016 Hyundai Sonata. What's it called? That thing has I've never seen this system, but it has an electronic motor for the camshaft actuator.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah, it was the PCM was blowing that fuse. So their technician was like, "Yeah, this PCM is junk. It's frying this fuse." I'm like, "All right." Cracked it open, and yeah, it was done. It was burnt. I'm like, that's really weird. I told him, "Hey, man, I would replace this," and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you need a new computer. He's like, so I just tell him the truth. Your best bet is to buy a new one. He's like, well, okay, let me call the dealer, because I do it on purpose. I know they're not available, and I know you can't technically program a used one. So I tell him, hey man, you really can't do a used one. You should just go get a new one, and it's this much to program it, which basically write him in. He calls me back. He's like, yo, he's like $1,400 and 6 to 8 months. I was like, yeah, I figured. He's like, man, is there anything that can be done? I go, I'll sell you one for, I don't remember what I told him. I gave him a price that was pretty much reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, do it. So, you get into those situations where what is the customer going to do? He's probably paying off the stupid car, and now it's going to sit there for 6 to 8 months, and then drop $1,600 on an engine computer, or we get him out the road. So, it's one of those things where, do you do a lot of used modules, man? Because it seems to be that where I'm at, it's just how I got started in programming. Everything I did was used.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to find out the hard way what can be done and what can't be done.
Yeah, I get a lot of calls on used stuff. And it's funny on the transmissions. I have a lot of transmission shops that I work with, and after we've been through it a few times, they'll call me beforehand. But it always seems with transmissions, they don't call you until it's already in, right? They've already installed the transmission, and now it's like,
shocker.
Can we do a used one? Well, you put it in. So, but yeah, we get a ton of used stuff. Especially in the last couple of years, chip shortage, supply chain, discontinued, whatever it might be. That seems to be the draw. And also just old pieces of crap car that aren't worth $1,000 module, if that's what it costs. And so the car is going to get scrapped unless they do this $100 junkyard module. And people are keeping their cars going by doing that stuff. So one of my challenges is the calls that I get from these shops when they say, hey, I've got a 2008 Dodge Charger, and I put a motor from a 2010 and then transmission from a 2009. Can I put an ECM from an '07 into it? I'm like, I don't know. And that's an extreme example. But a lot of times I'm like, I've never tried that used module in that application. We'll have to give it a shot and see. But sometimes it's tricky to know what to even charge or estimate for them when they call, because I haven't done this application. I haven't tried that used blank in this blank car. Until I've done it, it's kind of tricky.
So me, like I said, when I first learned how to program, every single thing I did was used. I didn't touch a new module till like 3 years afterwards or whatever. Like maybe Global A, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had I remember it was an argument with this guy. He's like, man, I've done thousands of GMs. Like, he was a body shop owner, and you're telling me this one can't be done new? The dealer said that they can't. I'm like, all right, cool, bro. I have the dealer too. Take it to them. It won't program.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you want me to tell you. This was before I had other solutions.
Yeah.
And, of course, he gets there and tows it back, and then he's just like, what do I do? I said, I told you, man, just go buy a new one. He's like, but that's a lot of money. I said, dude, they're like $250. Probably spent more on tows already, like.
Right.
And yeah, it was, at the time, it was $250. But now, I remember now, because that same module is now obsolete. Like, they don't make it anymore. Those early Global A E39s or whatever, they're for some reason they're done. Like, they're not available. I've had been fortunate enough to, like, I stock quite a few of those now, and I get calls from all over the country, and they're the same. Like, dude, we can't find one. We can't find one. So, it's really, really, like, interesting how he's always shot himself in the foot, man. by trying to sell more parts, because that's all there was, man. They didn't have any business doing this. I mean, you can call it identifiers or whatever, but it doesn't matter. Like, the whole purpose of FCA and or not even FCA, Fiat really, and GM doing one-time right modules is basically just to sell a module.
Yep.
So on the transmission side, the transmissions get tricky. The transmissions get really tricky. Do you do a lot of Eurotrans?
I'm just starting to get into it. I've done a couple BMWs and what was the other one? The Volkswagen. But the BMWs, it was aftermarket tooling that made that happen with the transmission. Yeah.
I remember that one.
I did a Mercedes. That was the other one, not a Volkswagen. It was a Mercedes. Again, used transmission, and again, both of those were, hey, we've already got it in the car. Can you do this? I'm like, come on. But yeah, I don't know. Doing something like a transmission just used at all, not even just the module, but all the mechanical components inside. That's such a roll of the dice whether it's actually going to work once you get it programmed.
The worst part for me is there's always three scenarios when it comes to that used Euro stuff. Scenario number one, they're happy with you. They pay you what you ask, because I charge a lot for that job because I can, because I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that it's more difficult than any other programming. Like, no, it's some are trickier for sure, but no, I'm going to charge more because I can do it. And dealer can't. Most people can't. They don't know how, so I do. So F you, I'm going to charge you.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have second scenario, which is you go ahead and you complete the job, everything goes well, and the transmission is junk. And it's somehow your fault.
Yep.
And then there's scenario number three, which is when you give them a price, it's almost like you insulted their mother. Oh man, but how are you going to charge? That's a perfect example. This guy, it was like $400 or $450 because he's an idiot. He didn't listen to me. He was like, how can you charge that if I only charge this guy $600 to change the transmission? Have him pay for it then, bro. He's like, well, he doesn't want to pay for it. I'm like, well, what do you want me to tell you? like for real, dude. Like, what do you want me to say? And I remember that I fired this shop for that's that third scenario. It was a Mercedes that had an original valve body. It's a 5-pin valve body. Those don't really come on the bench. You really can't do anything with those. Now, the issue at hand is, since you're getting any information out of it, you have to know what the flow rates are. So, at the time, I mean, I've got other tooling, but at the time, it was the personalization, and there was going to be the paying for this company to remote in and fix the flow rates and SC encode it.
Okay.
So, the company charges $125 plus I think it was like $400, so it's $525. And the guy went ape shit, and I'm just like, he's like, well, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. I go, so then somebody told him to swap the plates, and he broke it. So, and then he brought me a pile of plates from the junkyard with a bunch of solenoids in a box, and he's like, can you make one of these work? I looked at it, and I said, no. He's like, why don't you want to help me? I said, I tried helping you 2 weeks ago, bro. Like, this is a waste of my time.
Yeah.
At this point, you're better off just going and getting another whole train and just figuring this out. I don't want any part of this, dude, because when this transmission starts slipping or starts acting stupid, the first thing you're going to do is blame me for it.
Mm-hmm.
So he got upset, and he's just like, oh, you don't want to help me, then I'll figure something else. I'll take it to the dealer. I'm like, okay. Alright, goodbye. Like, scenario number 2 was actually 2 vehicles. Was a local yard that they use me for programming on their vehicles, because they buy and sell cars.
Sure.
So, and like, they'll give my number out to shops and stuff when they need help, and they're like, yeah, man, we got this transmission from such and such place. He goes, he gave me your number, says you can get it to go. Like, it doesn't even, it's like it's like not neutral, but it's like in second. It's like in default, and there's, there's a bunch of codes in it. It's a 15 traverse. I said, yeah, it's going to be this and this clone job or whatever. I give him a price. He's like, okay, do it. I get there, clone it, and, if I'm feeling nice, I'll update it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll clone it, and then I'll put the latest calibration in it. So I did it. Everything went well. Guy was writing me a check, and the lead guy comes back. He's like, don't pay him. So the owner's like, wait, what happened? He's like, something's wrong. So I go, what do you mean? What's wrong? He's like, it's not shifting right. Okay, and? But is it shifting? He's like, yeah. I said, okay. He's like, yeah, but you must have done something wrong. I said, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, it had to be you. And I'm just like, did you... So then, like, you can either go two ways. You can either tell them to go F themselves and try to collect and leave, or you can just, take a few minutes and use psychology and make them feel stupid.
Mm-hmm.
So I go, listen, before I got here, what was it doing? He was like, it was launching in second. I said, okay, and after I got here, now what's it doing? He's like, it's shifting, but it's not shifting right. I'm like, okay, again, I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. You're like, did I sell you the transmission? He's like, no. I'm like, and the owner's over here, like, doesn't know what to do because it's like, I'm trying to get paid, but he's telling him not to pay me.
Right.
And then this other older gentleman comes out, and it was like, he's like, hey, is that Traverse done, or Katie, whatever the heck it was. And he's like, yeah, but something's wrong with it. He's like, let me go drive it. So the guy goes and drives it. He comes back, and he's like, pay the man. And he's like, so what's going on? He's like, the transmission's bad.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, yeah, man, it doesn't have third gear. He's like, it wasn't shifting before, so obviously the guy did his job.
Mm-hmm.
So pay the man.
Yep.
So they paid me and left.
Yep. It's funny. I had an Acadia just recently. It was a newer one. It's a 17, and I got called to a shop. It's actually a shop I hadn't been to before, but they got my number, and he put a new Techum in it. So I don't know what, if anything, he did with the trans, but he put a new Techum in it, brand new. I come out, program it, collect my fee, and go. He calls me, is like, hey, it's shifting kind of funny. And I don't know what they did to the trans. I'm like, well, I programmed it. What do you want me to do? He's like, I don't know. We'll look at it. So then he calls me like 2 days later. He's like, hey, we swapped out the whole trans. We put a used one in, and with the used Techum and everything. And he wants me to come program it again. And I go through the whole, well, it's global A, blah, blah, blah. And so we made it happen. I programmed that one. Well, this transmission doesn't even go into reverse, this used transmission that he puts in there. And so he's like kind of coming at me now, like, well, hey, the first one didn't shift right after your programming, and now this one doesn't even go into gear. I'm like, dude, it's a used trans. Here's my page from GM's website saying that I programmed it, because I screenshot all that stuff. Here's my MDI2, my factory equipment. Like I have all that stuff, and he got all butthurt about it. And I was just like, there's nothing I can do. You probably put a shitty transmission in there. And so somehow or another, and this was just today, this thing ends up at another transmission shop that I service. And I talked to the guy, and he's like, yeah, he fixed it. He put in a rebuilt transmission or something. And I told him about the whole scenario, and he's like, oh yeah, that guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's doing. So I got paid 3 times to do this one vehicle to get it rolling. I was like, whatever. But I'm always willing to help my shops if it's something legitimate, right? If they're like, I don't know, there's some code in there after you program it wasn't there before. Yeah, of course I'm going to look at that. But stuff like transmissions, man, they're so intricate, and there's so many different ways that they can fail. And I'm not a transmission expert either. That's the thing. Like I don't build these things. I tell these guys this. You're the mechanical expert. You know the inner workings. I know the electrical and the computer. So the best I can do is tell you if it's computer related and then it's on you. You know the inside of that thing.
Oh yeah, and it's always us for some weird reason. Like it's always us
A scapegoat.
or our events. Yeah.
For their problems. They need an easy way out of their issue that they've created.
Like I hate installing Toyota engine computers, because like out of all, unless I diagnose it, because I've actually only diagnosed one Toyota computer.
Okay.
That was actually bad. But you know what? No, never mind. I've diagnosed a few for certain pattern failures and stuff like that. But for the most part, dude, when a shop tells me to install a computer on an engine computer on a Toyota, dude, it's usually misdiagnosed.
Right. Well, sometimes you can just tell by the symptoms that they're giving you for a vehicle. Like, you know, on the phone that, okay, this module is not going to fix this problem. And some shops, again, I'll try to like hint like, you sure? Did you check this? And then I guess it depends on my relationship with them, you know, how I'm going to handle that. But it's sometimes, you know, going in like, this is not going to change anything.
So, 15 Altima. This was a funny one. 15 Altima. I installed a used ECM for the shop. I go, hey man, get a new one. He's like, man, they're expensive and there are none. I said, well, you get a used one. I said, I don't warranty jack. I go, my job is to start it. It'll start. I go, but it's X amount of money for it's not specific programming. It's an EPROM job. And he goes like, yeah, I got to get this car on the road. All right, cool. Drop off the modules. Drop them off, clone them. Here, paid me, took them back. Calls me an hour later. He's like, yeah, everything is started or whatever, but I still got the same code. I go, which is what, bro? Like, I don't know. You just told me you wanted a module installed. I don't know you. Like, this is the first time I dealt with him. He's like, oh, it's this code, a P0101. I go, you do know there's like a couple steps to take for this. He's like, well, we already put in a few mass airflow sensors in it. I said, do you have the original one? You know, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
We went back and forth a little bit. And he's like, he was kind of adamant that I needed another computer. So I said, okay, I'll put another computer on. Like, I bring it. I'll do the job. And he somehow thought I wasn't going to charge him again. He's like, but then I'm already at like, you know, X amount of money. I'm like, I told you on the phone for free, you don't need a computer for this issue.
Right.
I go, there's, it's possible. I go, I just didn't want to tell him that it may need an update or whatever. I didn't know. Like I said, he just wanted to replace it. I did it, blah, blah, blah. I told him, listen, man, I'll diagnose it for you if you want, blah, blah, blah. And you know what's funny? This junk ended up needing a throttle body.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just it wouldn't go back to its position. I fought with it for a little bit, but yeah, throttle body was staying too stuck open. It was weird. It was really weird. But it's like I almost hate doing you stuff for this particular reason. I went through another shop. Have you done any GM rack and pinions? Right. So. The shop that I went to, dude, this one was wild. Shop that I went to, a used rack. So GM racks are weird. Some of them, even though they're global A, they will program.
Okay.
Sometimes they don't. Like, I don't know, it's a toss-up, but for a little fun fact for, you know, social media out there, the early Equinoxes, they actually program through SPS. I never have an issue with it. Unless you get the wrong rack or the wrong year.
I don't mean to interrupt your story, but I've heard the same thing about the 6L transmissions in Global A trucks, that the used ones will just program. I haven't tried it myself.
If it has the correct calibration, don't program them. slap it in and drive it. If it works, then leave it alone.
Gotcha. Okay.
Especially like the 6Ls are more forgiving, but I had one that after they didn't tell me anything. Like I just went in, programmed it, and after I programmed it, it wouldn't go into drive anymore, and it was going into drive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So but that one for sure are the six. I'm bad at numbers, man. 60/40s, like the Chevy Cruises, the little ones, Malibus.
Yeah.
Those guys, they don't need jack. Like the early ones, they don't need anything. Slap them in, reset the adaptives and roll.
Yep.
You try programming them, dude, they don't work.
I've experienced that exact same thing where, yeah, just leaving it alone, it's fine and never sets any code. So, yeah, that whole Global A thing is weird.
Yeah, Global A is really weird. And I had this guy, and I go over there, he puts one in, but I always assumed he was doing new ones. Or like even remans. He told me that they were all used because, I fast forwarded a little bit. The power steering goes out a week later on this thing, so he slams another rack in it. It was a bad rack. He's just like, it can't be another bad one. Can you diagnose it for me? I said, all right, man, ship it to the shop. Get to the shop, take it. I have my serial bus and I have my my in and out, my data lines were fine. Powers and grounds. It's hey dude, you got a bad rack. He gets another rack in it, another used rack in it. It's perfectly fine. A week later, it goes out again. And I'm like, what the crap, man? Like he's like, so I'm like, bro, just get a new one. He's like, okay. He gets a used one. Tells me, I go program it, and no comp. I'm like, dude, did you get another used one? He's like, yeah. I'm like, listen, man, they're junk, blah, blah, blah. This is one of my, I hate talking about it, but, always, what I like about admitting my F-ups is the fact that if other people can learn. So, he finally gets a reman one because the racks are now on back order for those Equinoxes, those early ones. So I'm like, all right, well, let's go check it out. I go, and it's a no-com. I'm like, all right, dude. I tell him, listen, man, put this thing on a rack. Let me double-check everything again. Communication, powered grounds, fine. I'm like, dude, what the hell? I check my wake-up signal. Nothing. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Well, it's broken now, so now I can figure it out, bro. There is a splice for the serial wake-up line underneath the seat that was corroded.
Okay.
So I think if they put their foot in the wrong position, it made an opening.
Damn. Shit.
Can you believe that?
Jeez. That's crazy. That's intermittent stuff. Freaking just sucks. But that's crappy. But so the used ones will work on those though, huh?
They work, but my experience has been really bad with used ones because I've seen those electronic racks go bad just by getting tie rods off.
Really?
Because people bang the crap out of them to get the tie rods off, and sometimes they don't like it, especially Volkswagen.
Okay.
Yeah, don't do that. I don't know. I don't know if you've ever seen that or not. I have a shop. All we did was change the ball joint, and now the steering doesn't work. Can you diagnose it for us? And bad rack.
Sure,
it's junk.
Sure.
No.
That's the tricky part about getting used anything, right? It's just like you don't know what the condition, even in just a module. It doesn't have to be something like a rack or transmission, but just a module. You don't know if that thing had problems before it ended up in a junkyard, or it has a very common issue that all those modules share and could be doing the same thing, or it'll do the same thing in 6 months as the one you took out of there. That's kind of a roll of dice. I guess it's more on the shop, but then, yeah, we're dragged into it because we're part of the process.
I had, so as you know, I've been getting deeper and deeper into like module stuff with the like cloning and stuff like that. I had I can't remember which Mercedes is or which it was a Mercedes ECM, I think 2011 or 12 C class. The guy, he's from here but not super close. He shipped me the modules. I clone them. I've done this module before, and I've done this procedure because when I get a car at the shop and I do a job like that, I actually spend a lot of more time trying different other methods. Oh, this works. Okay, this didn't work. That didn't work. Just to gain more knowledge on it. And he calls me. He's like, "Hey, so it started or whatever, but I'm having this issue. No throttle response, and there's this and there's that." I'm like, I go, "That's weird." I go, "It started." He goes like, "Yeah." He's like, and then he's just like, "Oh, I talked to some guy in Germany, and he said, maybe like when you open it." I'm like, "Nah, man." I go, "I'll tell you this right now, dude." I go, "I have tools that clone it. I didn't. If I had any doubts, I would hesitate to be like, yeah, let's do this." I go, "But dude," I go, "you got me a used module from somewhere. I don't know what the hell is wrong with it." I go, "Hey, it is what it is." So he ended up buying one from me. I had his files already. I shipped it to him, and he's like, "I owe you an apology." I go, "Yeah, I mean, I don't care." I go, "But I'm told you, like, you got me a bad module," and that's where trust comes into play. Because now going back to the Hyundai that I was telling you about earlier, I go, I don't know if my modules are 100% good. I'd be lying if I'd say. I mean, I go over them. I do a couple things to them as much as I can, but ultimately, man, you have to install them and see what happens. It's just like anything. And the shop owner got all upset because after all this happened, the car is now setting timing codes. And I'm just like, "What do you want me to do, man? Like, you don't even know if this was an original issue." He's like, "Oh, but it just wasn't running like that. Now it is." I'm like, "In the setting timing codes." I'm like, "Well, now the system's working, so you might have another mechanical issue, or maybe a mechanically binded, which is what blew out the motor, which is what blew out your engine computer. I don't know, man. I have no idea." So, like I said, I got that car sitting in my shop. I'm gonna take a look at it. But that's one of the downfalls of selling them.
Right. Yeah, because that's just another pull that they have, because you're involved in like one more aspect of it if you source the component as well. I haven't done any of that yet. I've tried to do some repair. It depends on what it is, right? There's only certain things that it makes sense or you're able to do. But then, you're kind of tied to that module. Actually, maybe you can tell me. I got this thing sitting right here. So, TCM out of a Focus. Ford? Are they even fixable? Can you get rid of that 606 code? I was going to take it apart and mess with it. The shop just gave it to me, so. Because there's like 60,000 on back order. That's the only reason I was like, I wonder.
Yeah, well, usually on those, usually it's not even like
the transmission's bad too.
Yeah, it's usually that, or it's the sometimes it can be the motors and stuff. I have one sitting in the shop too that my trend shop gave to me. I told them I wanted to take a crack at it. So maybe we'll play with it together.
For sure. Yeah. It's one of those. I have a lot of projects that I have to get to, but
dude, I have that story you were saying earlier about this swap this and swap that. Working on something with a guy locally here too who installs he does Hellcat swaps and stuff like that. He's a Mopar only shop, so hopefully we get to. I love that type of stuff, man. Which is why my inquisitive nature has always been like that. Now, do you foresee yourself, offering more and more stuff for use, or you just don't want to get involved?
No, I'm okay with it. There's going to be people button heads no matter what you do in business. You don't want to attract the wrong crowd, right? Like you don't want to. The potential with used modules is you could attract the bottom feeders, which we just don't want. I don't want to deal with those as customers. But there's just seems to be legitimate cases where something's discontinued, something's not available, something's super expensive, and I'm more than happy to help out with that. This is a question I had for you. So you said you started out doing a ton of used modules. When somebody would call you, you probably got a good scope of it now, but when somebody would call you when you're starting out and they ask you, I have this used module. What do you, for charging somebody on the phone for something maybe you haven't done, or you don't even know if it will work? What do you estimate? Like, how do you approach that? And then are you documenting all this stuff, or you keep it all up here as far as what works where?
My mind really works in mysterious ways because I can pretty much remember all that type of stuff. But when my wife asked me to bring her a Phillips screwdriver, I won't remember because I'm about to get my ass kicked because I fucking forgot the screwdriver. I just remembered.
Yeah, right.
So usually, man, like, it's one of those things where it's like forged by fire, man. Like the best thing to do is just get out there. But pretty much, man, like if it's a global A, more than likely it's gonna be no. If it's Ford, it can be yes. If it's Chrysler, as long as it's not Fiat architecture, then it's a yes. But then there's exceptions, like ABS modules, even on older ones. If they're the wrong part numbers, you can't initialize them. They won't. So there's a lot. Like, for example, me, honestly, it depends on the shop and the situation, right? So if it's a really good shop of mine and I'm there for something else and be like, hey, I got this used stuff and I know I can try to get it to work, I'll take a few minutes and for my own personal knowledge and experience, I'll be like, all right, man, I'll give you 5 minutes. Let me see if I can do something with it. If I do it, I'll charge you. If not, then it's fine. I've done that. If it's somebody that I don't like and I don't deal with, I just tell them, listen, man, your best bet is to get a new one. They're very tricky to install used. I go, tell their customer that it's on their dime. It's $150 whether I can do it or not. So usually that's been my approach on it. If I don't like the shop,
okay.
And then because then there's also like, one of my rules in terms of programming and using other tools and stuff like that, because there's tools that can save you time. If I'm saving you money, I'm charging you more. If I'm saving me time, then I'm charging you the same as any programming event.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's kind of how I've looked at used modules.
Yeah.
What's it called? Though there has been a few that have generally like really kicked my behind, and it's always usually BMW. Like getting some of these one-time the protected ones. I don't know. BMW has a term for it where the ISN and the VIN number are in like one-time right sectors of the MCU, and they're just like a total pain in the butt. Like I've gotten my behind kicked on two BMWs, a X like a 320 something little convertible,
okay,
and an X5. Both of them, they're similar. No, they weren't similar modules, but one of them was actually a no comp. Like the module was dead, so I couldn't do anything with it. Like I tried swapping, but Pedro we hopped on that one because it was a great learning experience. We ended up swapping the MCU out, and nah, man, nothing helped. Nothing worked.
Wow.
That was a very interesting one. I even told the owner, hey man, let's just get a new one and not mess with none of this not available.
Oh, okay.
It was like an 07, 08. That was like $2,500 and they just didn't make it anymore. So we got him back on the road. And that little BMW had what was called an MSV80 module. That's the Bosch number, and man, those are I had to do a lot of research and tools to figure out what I could use to actually just get that thing going.
Yeah. But like you're saying, that struggle to get through that stuff, which probably sucked while you were there, you learned so much from it. And then the next BMW, whatever you get, you're well prepared for it and knowledgeable on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's and again, it's really up to the shops, man. Like if I get this question a lot because fucking Perkins called me the used module king one time in class. so then I get a bunch of I'll get people that ask me these questions and stuff like that, and again, man, it's a slippery slope per se, man. Like in terms of installing anything used, really, man. I mean, it can be a used motor, it can be a used trans.
Mm-hmm.
I do recommend anybody who's out there, they're trying to get their feet wet, is more like there's a lot of research to be done, man. There's a lot of money to be spent in tools. You know that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It never ends, man. But ultimately, it's to me, it's like the thrill, man. Like, yeah, the dealer can't do this. I did it. And I'm just a little fat kid from the west side of Chicago, man. So
that is a cool feeling to
so
see it fire up or do what it's supposed to do when it's been sitting forever. They've had a bunch of hands on it and can't make it work, and you finally get that one. You're able to make it happen. That is a cool feeling for sure.
Yeah, so it's your Euros are the ones that have given me like the best in terms of getting used modules, doing stuff. I had a customer with a 15 M class, and he had a misfire. He took it to AutoZone, of course, and sold him an AutoZone coil, and he smoked his PCM like a week later.
Jeez.
And it was. I feel real bad for the guy, man, because I was only able to for me, it's like, okay, coil smoked, whatever, smoked the driver, the PCM. I go, so it's PCM, it's or ME, whatever they call it, DME, no, ME. So smoked it, coil's bad, and I go, so I'm like, hey man, we need coils, tune up, and PCM. $1,200 or $1,300, which I thought was pretty not bad for a Mercedes. 3 to 4 weeks, I think it was, to get one. Coils are like non-existent. You cannot find a dealer ignition coil right now for anything.
Wow.
For Mercedes. I scavenged a couple of them. He found a couple of them, and we ended up just getting a used one. We used Denso coils, I think.
All right.
And it was fine for like 3 months, and the same shit.
Oh no.
So yeah, man, that poor guy. I don't know what he's gonna do. He was supposed to bring me back the car. I think he ran out of money or whatever.
Dang.
But yeah, it's
He's buying a Ford next, I'm sure.
So I can smoke coil. At least the PCM's cheaper.
Exactly.
But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of learning. So like for you, for example, man, realistically, it's more about learning the years, right? Like learning that 2010 Camaro. I forgot which other 2010 was a Global A, and then 11, and pretty much after 15, you're
everything.
That's Global
Yeah.
A. Nissan, pretty much that's my rule. All of them after 15 are just one time or EPROM.
Okay.
Like traditionally, there's some in between years. Like I was able to do a 14 Rogue once, but then I wasn't able to do a 14 Altima. What else? If it's European, then no. Hell no. That's basically the Ford Ford is funny, man, because I've had issues with certain PCMs from like 11 and 12 that just won't go. Some of the newer stuff like 17 and 18, they're also hit or miss too.
Okay. And so with Ford, you're just doing IDS and trying to do those, right? Because that's the thing is like there's
those things to EEPROM, those things, dude. It's not like I have a newer one there that I want to play with, but from what I was told is that they're not easy to clone. Newer Ford modules.
Yeah, I haven't ever seen much on cloning Fords, but I assumed it's just because for the most part, the factory software is capable of doing it. But it's always an oddball.
Yeah, like for example, I know some of the Ram trucks because I have a body shop that I deal with, and they have a contract with the city of Chicago for the Park District. They have a lot of just basic Ram trucks and stuff like that, and I've done used modules for them on those 13, 14, 15 year Rams. But then I tried doing, I think it was an ABS, or I don't know what I tried doing on a not like a commercial, like not a commercial. I'm sorry, like a let's say a pretty 1500, like with the radio and all the other like the fancy features and stuff. And so I don't know if the commercial vehicles are still running off of the old architecture. I don't know. Like FCA just seems to do whatever the hell they want.
Right. And they've had so many transitions too. It was the Daimler Chrysler and then the Fiat. Now it's Stellantis, and it
was Daimler. It was Chrysler, then Daimler Chrysler, then they were on their own for a couple of years too.
Oh, okay.
And then they got bought out by FCA.
Yeah.
Or they merged with Fiat to become the trash can of the automotive industry.
I just had a journey this morning, actually, that they put a used PCM in, and it was the PCM the journey that it came from had all-wheel drive, and then this one didn't. And those, again, like being able to fix that sort of problem is huge because you know that not a whole lot of other people are going to be able to do that. They're going to say, get a different PCM, which in that particular case maybe isn't a big deal, but that I could show up, say, yes, I can do it. I can fix it. Like you say, if it's something that it's not going to be easy to do and you're saving them money, you can charge more for it. Right. And that's how I approached that one too. I showed them, I'm like, hey, here's the cal numbers. This is beyond normal programming. You're okay paying for it. Otherwise you have to get another one. And, I could see him think about it for about 2 seconds. He's like, yeah, just do it. Just make it work. Okay. All right. So then, having those solutions is huge for sure.
I think the objective for us is just to obviously make money, but to get these cars out of the shops bays, man, because it's bad, man. Like this part shortage, man, it's terrible. Yeah. Like everywhere, and I feel even worse for body shops.
Yeah. It's part shortage, it's tech shortage, and it's overwhelming amount of work. And these guys are just running around with their heads cut off, and they don't even have time to think about how can I figure out how to program this module. If you come in there and be a solution for them and make their day easier, just be like, just hand me the keys, I'll take care of it. Like they're very, very happy to see you. And I like that part of the business when I can be, I'm assisting you, I'm making your life easier, and then they're just that much more happy to pay whatever your fee for doing that stuff. And that's where this kind of ties into the whole used module thing, because hey, maybe they didn't know that doing a used module on this one was tricky, or the dealer couldn't do it, but hey, I'm going to take care of it for you, right? I'm your solution. We'll make this happen, and then they'll call you again. So I think it's been beneficial to expand into that world too, to learn more about it rather than just saying like, no, it's new only, to at least figure out what's possible. And it's benefited me, I think.
I love the fact that I have so many people that will send me stuff. They just willingly trust me and are willing to send me a few modules and stuff or buy some from me. Like I love it. I also like sometimes don't know why or how, and it goes back to like paying for diag and stuff like that. I don't understand how some of these shops just can't talk to customers, man. Like I don't get it. So I had a Jaguar. I forgot what year it was. It was an older one. It was like 2002 or something like that. 2003. It's like the Ford one, but still a Jag. Mm-hmm. One of those junks.
Yep.
Well, you and me both know that they're not supported by, like, legacy. The legacy SED is done. It's dead. There's the only thing that really works on those old turds is the blue box. So I had one of my body shops call me for one of their buddies' cars. He's like, he made sure he told me, oh, this is for one of my good friends and blah blah blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. Like, what you need, man? He's like, my guy wants to replace I think it was a cluster or something, some module on it. I don't remember. It was about a year ago. He's like, can you do those? I'm like, yeah, man, but it's gonna cost you. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, I said, dude, the tool is very expensive. I just gave him some BS, like, yeah, it's very expensive or whatever. But it's not that. It's just I know nobody's gonna be able to do it unless they have one, and I don't know how many people in Chicago have it, so I'm whatever. Right. So I gave him this pretty inflated price, and then he goes, and of course, oh man, no man, for that I'll just tow it to Orloff, a Jaguar dealer by us, JLR dealer. And he's like, oh man, I'll just tow it there. It'll still be cheaper to tow it there and then tow it back and pay them. I go, at this point I could have just been like, make sure you call them first because it's not supported anymore. Mm-hmm. They don't have the tool that I have. But since he spoke to me in some sort of way, I said, okay, yeah, then, that's probably your best bet then, bud. We don't need anything else. A week later, he calls me, not him, his partner calls me. He's like, hey, man, so I have this jet. I said, I don't know, man. Your partner called me, talked to me some sort of way, telling me he was going to take it to the dealer. What happened? He's like, well, this idiot decided to not call him and ask him and just pay for the tow there. And when he gets there, they charged him an hour to tell him that they can't do anything with it. But they didn't tell him it wasn't supported. They just told him they couldn't do a used one.
Oh, okay.
Which is not true. They're just that they're not supported. They just wanted to charge him an hour. So it was $225. Probably, I don't know how much for a tow there and then the tow back. And then they still called me. And then I don't remember. I think it was a cluster that I did. Or I don't remember. I go out there. I do it. I charge them. And it still didn't fix the car.
Oh, man.
He's like, can you diagnose it? I said, dude, I gave him another extraordinary amount, dude. And then you got to tow it to my shop, dude. I'm not doing that here. F that. I don't know what they did. I don't know if his buddy stopped talking to him after that or not. But, stuff like that is where, I don't want to say having the upper hand, but, like, Chicago is so cutthroat, dude. Like, these guys will literally waste time shopping around. And there's guys that do, like, I don't do programming, man. Like, contrary to popular belief, dude, I don't do a lot of programming here. I just, there's always somebody that's willing to do it cheaper. Always somebody that's going to do it for cheaper. And they can have it, man. I don't care. But when it comes to stuff that I can do, that you can't do,
yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I'll make sure I get paid for my time.
Yeah, I had, what was it? It was an old Saab dice module, and I'm, not that there's a Saab dealer to go to, but I'm way up in the sticks, and I know that, like, there's nobody else that has the stuff to do that, at least not that I'm aware of, so, yeah, I can charge a premium rate for a job like that. And on that note, I've been seeking out more stuff like that where maybe I would have been afraid to go for the more difficult stuff before. Like, oh, that's, that Euro stuff's real tricky. I'm not going to involve myself with that because it's going to be a hassle. But and probably is going to be a hassle, but you figure it out. You take the time and the investment of the money and then the training and the knowledge, whatever, maybe breaking some stuff and killing some modules, but you do that. And now you have a service that is unique and not a whole lot of people can do. And then you can again, charge a premium rate for services like that. So I'm actively seeking out stuff like that recently, and it's tough, man. There's a steep learning curve, and you don't always get it right, and it sucks sometimes. But if you can figure it out, it's so worth it to pursue that.
Yeah, it's just the chase, the thrill, man. Probably why I like Diag so much. Getting tired of it though, but it's really it's just the whole experience of it is what's really dope. And then like honestly, like helping others to try to better themselves in the industry and try to make a couple of dollars, man. That's what it's all about.
For tooling for all this stuff, right? Doing all these used modules. I mean, there's definitely some where the OE will just do it. And I'm thinking of like Volkswagen. Like when I ask people, can I do a used blanket in a VW? And they're like, just use Otis, right? And so there's definitely some applications where that's the answer, but there's a lot of aftermarket tooling and equipment that's involved with if you want to get into the used module programming area. And I've been finding myself buying up a lot of that stuff. Even if I have the OE equipment, I'm like, well, I'll get this, aftermarket thing in case I run into this scenario.
So my advice to anybody is just like programming. When people say, oh, what tool do you buy for programming or blah, 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 right? Definitely like Volkswagen, Audi, dude, Otis is, I spend so much time doing so many different VW modules, dude, that it's just so much easier just use Otis, even though I'd rather poke my eyeballs out than have to install this junk ass program.
It's down today, by the way.
It's definitely, yeah, it's been down since last night, I think. And, but in terms of tooling, like my best advice to anybody would be figure out what your market is, what your demand is, and also figure out if it's just not easier to sublet this type of thing, because it's fun, but it's also like, do you have X amount of money to invest? Do you have the time to invest? Because I mean, people can help you all day long, but you, at the end of the day, still have to do some learning. There's a huge learning curve to it, man. Like I'm just blessed to have, I met good people in my corner. We share stuff, networking and stuff always helps. But there are tools, and knowing your tools' limitations. There's also like the R&D, man. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't, man. But yeah, I say also come up with a budget, and that will tell you. Like me, for example, I don't regret it at all. But I also used a lot of shitty tools, a lot of knockoffs, a lot of stuff that are subpar, and you fight a lot with it because. I mean, you can view it either which way. I learned a lot by messing up a lot of stuff. I learned a lot by using these cheap ass tools. But ultimately, man, like, you end up still buying the good stuff anyway. So you can either, struggle but learn a lot in the process, or just, buy the stuff that you need up front.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of an example like that where I had, some aftermarket or some outdated equipment or whatever, and I struggled with it, and I finally got, the OE or whatever, and it was so much easier, it's so much slicker, but then I wouldn't have learned as much about the applications. VW is probably the best example. Is I have just beat my head against the wall, and I remember it was a 05 cluster. Noah's probably listening to this, and I wasted so much time trying to get this stupid cluster and this Passat to work, and tore it apart, and EEPROM and all this stuff, and it's a few clicks of a button, but I did learn some stuff along the way. So In a way, I guess it's worth it.
Oh no, man! For those older VW junks, dude, man, no, man, my blue box, dude. I tell everybody, dude, I'm getting buried with that thing. I'm taking that thing to my grave. It was such an amazing
That's one
tool.
I don't have. I do not have old Auto Logic. I have the new blue box, which is the 608, but it doesn't do that stuff. So
It sure doesn't. Yeah, we were talking about the 608 in one of these conversations, not with you, but one of the 23,000 chats
yeah.
that I'm in. That tool is very interesting, man, because I feel like it's a great tool, but I also feel like it entirely screwed the key market.
Yeah.
It made keys so easy that people are just willing to do it for cheap because it's so easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that tool single-handedly demolished the key market.
I can totally see that.
But again, it's like it's just the evolution. Was it just them? No. Would it have gotten? Somebody else was going to do it? Yeah, somebody else definitely would have done it. And the same thing's going to happen now with rap. So with all these remote programming stuff. So it's kind of like what I tell people is kind of just don't stick to one thing. Just make sure you have different avenues of expertise and stuff. For example, like I think I've said in another podcast of ours, like the reason why the little shops that I do have keys that use me for keys. I'm sorry, they use me because they don't know what the hell's wrong with it. They just think it needs a key. Hey, Tommy, can you come program this key? I show up, and I know which stops they are, so I take a few minutes and I just make sure that at least from my perspective, it can possibly need a key. If it doesn't, then like, hey man, this thing needs to be diagnosed. Okay, diagnose it for us. No problem. So that's why they call me. So some people also would show up that have no idea how to diagnose a vehicle, but they know how to cut keys and program keys. How many times that I fought cars like that showed up. A locksmith cut and programmed the key. Key wasn't even programmed because it was a no comp. So now it's like it's a back and forth between me, the shop, and the locksmith. Oh no, I did my job. He just had another problem. Blah blah blah. And it's just like, well, I'm not going to program it for free, so So it becomes a headache. It's just again goes back to what I was telling you about the trust issues and just for establishing relationships with your shops and your customers.
Yeah, it's the same thing. If you're a shop and you have regular customers, is building up that trust with them, so they're coming to you if they have an issue and they're not thinking twice about it. And your goal is to make their life easy and provide that solution. And I think if, like you say with the wrap, right, and there's some obstacles to it right now, but let's say it's super, super slick and very affordable. I feel, at least, I can't say it for sure, but I feel like I have a lot of shops that would still use me just because they know if there's issues, there's problems, I got them. I'm going to take care of it, right? I'm going to support them where maybe this application won't, of course. I say that, and then 2 years from now, I won't have any business. But I like to think that being the guy with a solution and being, helpful where it makes sense to be helpful has earned me quite a bit of business and reputation too, right? Like all of the business I have has been word of mouth. I went on my own this summer and I was going to I'm going to do some marketing and stop by the shops, and I even had time to. It's all word of mouth and nothing fantastic about me. It's just that I have a procedure and I have a way that I conduct myself business wise, and it's worked out pretty well for me so far. So hopefully it continues.
Yeah, man. It's all we have is our name, man, and our reputations, dude. We just have to do, for example, like I have to get better at just farming some of these guys out, because sometimes I'll take on stuff I don't want to just because it's hard for me to say no or whatever. But the used module situation, at least for the time being, man, it's not going anywhere, man. And some of these shops would have to either like get off their high horse or again learn how to talk to customers. Like, listen, man, I go, this is the only situation we have, and this is what it is. Do you want to do it this way, or what do you want to do? And I think there's still, money to be made. Like me now, for example, through all my connections and stuff, man, I stock a few hundred modules now, all different types, and it's pretty dope because you figure like not even just for selling them like online, which eventually I probably will just start doing that, but it's just another revenue stream for us, man. You for example, like perfect example, man. Car comes in, Mercedes comes in, no com. That's whatever you want to charge for diag or whatever. Which I got a question for you, but let me finish. So you do your diag, and then, oh yeah, you need this wiring repair, and then it blew out the engine computer. Oh, I got one here on the shelf. You knock everything out, you clone the module, slap it in, and that's a nice $1,000, $1,200 ticket. So it's like it's a natural progression of what we do, diagnostics and programming, and why not start selling the components as well too?
Yep.
Did you remembering our last conversation? Did you go up on your price?
Yes, man? I did.
Like I told you,
Yep.
Nice. Was it? Did you have any blowback?
No. Well, one shop, but he got over it because he didn't call me for a few weeks, and then he called me. So.
Yep. I told you. I told you.
It wasn't an issue, and now I'm getting to the point right now. Summer's just been crazy. June was nuts, and people call me, and I'm a couple days out now, and in the past, for me, they just weren't used to that. And so now I have people saying, hey, I'll pay you extra if you can get here today. And I haven't done it because I don't want to set that precedence that like, you call me and I'm there today, because that's not good for me, because I'll just keep getting that. But it just goes to show that they're willing to pay. And it's like I go back to what I was saying. As long as I'm doing my thing correctly, I don't see an issue going forward with that.
Good, man. No, it's I don't know. I don't like that either. Honestly, like it's just more like, dude, it's to me, it's not even about the money. It's like, listen, man, it's more like, how would you like it if I blew you off because somebody else was paying me more than you?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't like it either. Neither would your customer. So that's how I always take that. Because I've been offered that before. I've been threatened before too. Like a lot of these shops are like, oh, blah, 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 I'm never going to use you again. I'm like, well, then should I cancel your appointment or not?
Yep.
Let me know now, because I have other things I can be doing.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple. Well, we're gonna have to call the other guy. I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna mess up my entire day's schedule. That doesn't make any sense for me or my other customers.
I love that one. I'm gonna have to call somebody else. All right, cool. Then I don't answer the phone for 3 days straight. I did that to a guy too. I told him, because the guy is cool. I know I'm always usually like, I finish my job, you pay me, and I'm done. And one time he's like, hey man, he was like, I had the situation, and he came up with this sob story, but I don't have any cash on me right now. I said, you're on my way home. Don't worry about it. I'll pass by another day. Well, I didn't forget. I was just busy, and I show up to the shop, and I do the job, and I'm like, hey, so you owe me for the other programming? Oh man, I only have for this one. I'm like, okay, so when are you gonna pay me for the other stuff? He's like, oh, can you pass by can you pass by tomorrow or whatever? I'm like, okay, so same shit again, right? So, he called me one more time, and I'm like, so then he goes like, hey, I said, all right, man, but listen, man, I go, I need you to pay me. He's like, He's like, man, but can you just program this one and then just come back in 2 days or blah, blah, blah. I said, nah, man, I'll just come back in 2 days, man. So he's like, no, come on. I was like, no, man, I'm telling you, dude, like, I understand shit happens or emergencies. It's a small ass shop, but nah, man, now I feel like you're taking advantage of me. And he's just like, no, just come here, I'll figure it out. Dude, I get there, I do the job, and he did the same shit
What
again.
the fuck?
I was like, all right, bro, all right. I said, I didn't say anything. I said, all right, that's fine, man. I'll let this one slide again. He called me 4 times a day, a week straight afterwards. Yeah, I didn't answer. I just didn't answer. For a whole week. And then finally, he's just like, hey, man, what, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I only answer paying customers, bro. So unless you're calling to pay me, I go, don't call me no more. He's like, come pick up your money. Okay. So I picked up my bread. Hey, can you do this? I'm like, nah, bro, we're done. Sorry. And I just fired him. But that's literally the only customer I ever fired face to face.
Okay.
Like, I usually don't fire customers. I just don't answer their phone calls.
Yeah.
Or I tell them, yeah, man, I'll be there in 3 weeks or something like that. Like,
yeah, blow them out of the water.
Yeah. Because I don't like firing customers because, like, sometimes they'll call you when you're slow and it's an easy gig or whatever. So I'll just go do it. But, nah, man, I don't like that. What sucks is that it jays you to the rest of them that, stuff happens, dude. Like, that's happened to me before. Sometimes I don't have enough cash to do something or whatever because I didn't go to the bank or whatever reason, man. But, I mean, I always figure it out, though. I never let somebody go out without getting paid. Right. I have checks. I have stuff like that.
Yeah. I've been pretty lucky on that as far as payment. There's a couple places that try to push it if I give them a net 30 or whatever, but I feel like I've been pretty lucky, and maybe it has to do with where I'm at.
I do net 30 for the big chains that I work with.
Yep.
And dealers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they usually do it. So I don't really it's not like I really have much of a choice, but like these small mom and pop joints, nah, man. You just pay me when I'm done.
Yeah. There's a couple places that do like a electronic transfer type deal. And if they want to do it on the 15th of the month or whatever, that's cool. That's fine. That works for me just fine. And I haven't had too much of an issue. There's been a couple like, hey, can you pay this invoice? And it's done. But, that's always something that's at the back of my mind. If I'm leaving the premises without getting paid, like, am I going to get money for this? Hopefully. Yeah, there's just so many different characters, so many different shops out there. I was at a transmission shop. They called me to look at, I don't even know what it was. Doesn't even really matter. Look at the transmission or program something for their transmission. And I think I was on the way to the shop, or it was the same day. A different shop calls me and asked me like the exact same thing. And it was unique, right? It was a particular truck and a particular thing I was doing. And they asked me, I'm like, oh, that's weird. I was like, you don't have this vehicle at another shop, do you? Like, oh yeah, it's over at so-and-so's shop right now. And they were going to diagnose it, they said, but we're just calling around to see if there's another price. And so I was kind of in a bind because I was driving to the truck to look at it. And I knew that this shop was hiring me to do it, but they were saying that they were doing it. So I gave them my price, but I didn't say that I was going over there. But there's a lot of characters out there, because guaranteed they didn't tell those guys that they were hiring somebody out. They just said they could do it and took it in. But I got paid for that one, so I didn't really care that much.
Man, that happened to me at the shop before I did programming. Anything else just for Diag. I had a lot of the shops in the neighborhood knew that I knew how to diagnose some stuff. And this job was a particularly funny one. It was, I don't remember what it was. I think it was either, it was a Diag. It was a Diag. I gave the guy my price. He told me I was nuts or whatever. It was when we were also doing tires as well. So he didn't like my price. He went to the mechanic across the street was okay with his price, and the mechanic just farmed it to me. And he came in with his wife's car to fix a flat, and he saw his car there, and he blew a gasket. And I acted like I don't remember him, but I remember him. And he's just like, "What's my car doing here?" I'm like, "I don't know. What shop sent it to me." "What shop?" I'm like, "What does it matter to you, man?"
Right.
"Oh, this is my car. I'm the owner." I'm like, "Well, then talk to the shop who sent it to me, man. If this is your car, then you know what shop it was, right? Talk to them." "Oh, I don't want my car here." Like I said, sir, I don't know you, man. I don't know. You can tell me this is your car, this isn't, but you're not the one that dropped off this vehicle. So if you want it out, then have the shop come pull it out for me. And he he didn't even fix his flat, man. He stormed out. The shop owner calls me. He's like, "Hey, what happened?" I said, "The owner of the car was here." He's like, "What happened?" I'm like, he said he wanted his car back. I said, "Dude, he's not the one that gave it to me, man, so I don't know if he's the owner or not." He's like, "But you know it's him, right?" "Yeah, I know it's him." He's just like, "What did he tell you?" I'm like, "He wanted his car," and I told him no. I told him to contact you, come get it out. I'm like, he's like, "Yeah, but did you piss him off?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know." And he's like, I'm like, "Yeah, well, I calmed him down already, man, so just let me know what's wrong with it." So he was just upset because I think he tacked on another price or whatever, which is fine. I don't care. Doesn't bother me at all, but I guess he was just mad because he could have gotten the work done cheaper.
Sure.
So yeah, that happened to me once or twice.
Yeah, well, we've talked about it before on different episodes where, you know, the general public or the person getting their car fixed doesn't even realize that there's a third party involved most of the time, and I'm totally okay with that. I'd like to keep it that way, but it's interesting that majority of the time they have no clue that we're even involved or a thing.
Yeah, I feel like a dirty side piece sometimes. Just coming in the shadows.
Yeah.
Getting the job done and leaving.
Exactly. But I like that because then I have very little, if any, contact with the owner of the vehicle or the general public. And we've also talked about that before, where I make that a priority is to not have much contact with the owners of the vehicles.
Do you think that there's in the industry? So, all right, here's a funny part about our industry, right? Or about the industry in general. We were always told that EPROM is bad, that used modules or stuff, that you're supposed to get a new one and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Right? But with this module shortage, man, I've seen that there's more and more people trying to figure this out. And it's funny because people in other countries have been doing this for years because, you know, they didn't have a choice.
That was their only option, yeah.
That was the only option, especially since, you know, because even though love it or hate R2R, we've always had access to factory stuff. And some of these countries, they don't.
Mm-hmm.
So they had to just wing it on their own. They had to figure it out. Which some of these tools that I've acquired come from some of these countries.
It's tricky because, you know, I see both sides of the argument on some of that stuff where, you know, the cost of X amount of software is so much because so many people have been, you know, going around it or stealing it or whatever. But at the same time, I always have thought, you know, you own the vehicle, right? As owner of the vehicle, whoever has it, and you've got those physical components on as part of that vehicle, that module, that EEPROM chip, you know, technically, I don't know, there's probably an argument against it, but technically, like, you own all that stuff, right? You own all those pieces together. And the intellectual property argument could be made against that, but, you know, it's your property, and whatever you want to do with that, if you want to clone one out, if you want to transfer one over, and whatever means that takes, and that's your choice. Like, what's wrong with that? Why not?
My car, my choice.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. For me, most of the time, it's let's get this fixed, and that's always been my vibe in the automotive world, even just as a mechanic. Is not hacking stuff, but how can I make this work? And if the traditional route doesn't make sense, doesn't work, isn't feasible. Is there another route I can take to make this work? Because me, at heart, I'm a person who fixes stuff, right? That's why I got in this field. That's why I went to tech school. That's why I keep doing this stuff, is I like to fix stuff. I like to make broken stuff not broken. And honestly, that's my goal above worrying about a lot of other stuff is how can I fix that? And if there's not a reasonable way to do that or a realistic way to do that your way, well, I'll find another way, and I'm happy going that way. I don't have an issue with it, but I know it's a debated topic with some people.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic at that too, man, because it's just like where the lines are getting blurrier, the more this module shortage happens. And I was reading a couple reports a couple weeks back that everybody said by 23 it should be good, and they're saying that's late, maybe like middle to late 24. If that,
I know somebody who works in, she's a buyer for a large company, not automotive stuff, but it deals with the same thing, chips and stuff. And stuff just keeps getting pushed out further and further and further on this stuff. There's not an end in sight. And actually, I got a guy next month coming on. He's I don't know, he's the CEO of a company that deals with that stuff, and he's got a bunch of knowledge on this chip shortage stuff. I thought that would be pretty interesting. I got a bunch of questions because I don't know that much about it, but I don't see it just wrapping up anytime soon. And well, then discontinued stuff too, like that's not going to necessarily change for a lot of stuff unless there's that big of a demand for this obscure Ford. They're not just going to start making components again. So you got to find another route. There's got to be alternate methods around it.
Bro, and the sad part is like some of these cars aren't even 10 years old.
Yeah, for the discontinued stuff.
And yeah, man, and it's like what are you supposed to do? Like, you're gonna just toss this fully functioning
right
vehicle that's not even a rust bucket?
Yeah.
Like, an argument can be made if it's an old hunk of junk that's just rotted through the floor, and yeah, bro, it's time to peace out, F this thing. But like a very serviceable vehicle, like that's what type of society we're on. Like, our car's gonna be microwaves now, but they don't cost like a microwave.
Right. No, not today. I think that's why everybody's so busy.
Oof.
But yeah, it makes more sense than ever to fix that old piece of shit.
Yeah, I don't know if you talk to actual shop owners, and like during Rona, like the repair side of my business was actually nothing really changed. I just felt like we were just doing big ticket items, man. Like, people just were dumping thousands and thousands into their cars, man. Like, more than usual.
Yeah. Oh, they got the Rona bucks, and can't go out to eat, can't do their normal vacation. Where are we going to put it? Well, let's fix up the old beater. I think that was a lot of it, and now I think it's just been pushed by the cost of new vehicles, or even the cost of used vehicles, that my parents could sell their '02 Silverado for $6,000. Nobody's picking vehicles up for cheap like they used to. So spending $1,500, no big deal. But I've said it before, all the lots, the shops I go to around here are packed every single day with cars. It's crazy.
Here it's like it's really a toss up, man. Everybody's always kind of busy, man, but it's usually like some of them isn't really like good busy. It's more like we can't find parts busy, or like I can't figure it out busy.
Yeah, they're not all making money, but they're staying busy.
Yeah, man. Are you gonna expand on your used stuff, or just gonna stay where you're at right now? Didn't you just buy a tool?
Well, I got Flex, yeah.
Nice,
so
love it.
That's the goal, is to get more into that, is learning where the needs are local to me. I have to go down towards the city to see more Euro stuff, because where I'm at in particular, like, it's far and few in between for Euro. It's all.
Where are you at exactly anyway? You're north of
yeah, I'm about 30
Minneapolis, right?
30 miles north of the Twin Cities, and so it goes from
what's it called?
the town I'm in is called Stacy. It's super, super small town. But it goes from, Minneapolis, St. Paul, huge metro area. You get suburb, and then you get cornfields, and I'm in the cornfield. So you get all different kinds, right? I go to pole barns that guys are working out of, and
nice.
Here's the thing. I'll tell you what, Tommy, this isn't 100% true. There's obvious exceptions. There's fantastic techs down in the cities, but on average, the competence level of the technicians that I deal with gets better the further away from the city I get. And I've noticed that throughout the years.
You know why, right?
It's blue collar farm guys, manual labor, people that have been doing work with their hands for their entire lives. That would be my guess is why the guys up here, they know what they're doing.
It's quality over quantity. They've had to work more with less. In the cities, it's like there's just so much going on in the cities, man, that a car can easily just get passed from shop to shop. Like it happens in Chicago, man. Like, say for example, if I'm in Joe Schmo's auto repair and I'm sitting on this car for a week, I'll dump it because I got brakes to do, I got suspension to hang, I got volume. I have volume. There's no volume in these small towns.
Sure.
Cars got to get fixed a certain way. They got to get fixed right. If not, then you imagine. You see these people every day. It's like how they say, you never work for family. It's the same crap. Like, you see these people every day, so you pretty much have to be on point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you go up to the local bar and you're going to see that dude you fix the car for sure.
Or try to fix his car. Imagine that. Be like, yeah, you didn't fix my stuff. I took it to this guy over here. He fixed it.
Yeah.
And that's how it spreads.
Yeah. You say to most people like, oh, I go to this shop that's run out of a pole barn in this guy's backyard. And I think a lot of people kind of look down on that. But I'll tell you what, some of the most competent people that I work with run those types of operations up here. But it's, again, because of where we're at. And it's so again, yeah, some of those are very good customers of mine that I like working with. There's one, whenever he calls me for a diagnostic, I know that it's going to be something that's an ass kicker, like 100%. He's never called me for something easy because he knows
I got one of those too. He's about an hour from me. Great guy, great people.
This guy's like, good too.
I was like, oh, come on, man.
The funny thing is when I go there, again, he's in his pole barn out back of his house. I walk in there, the dude is almost always smoking pot because you can smell it as soon as I walk in. And I'm not saying that's what you should do when you're working on vehicles, whatever. It's his deal. But it's so funny because the guy is on it. Like, he's a very intelligent person and knows his shit. And like I said, when he calls me on a diag, it's going to be something that's completely messed up. So I'm like, God damn it, why is this guy calling me?
Oh yeah, I have. It's just one.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, why are you calling me? Like, you're smarter than I am. Leave me alone.
Exactly.
I got like easy money to go make.
Yep. Yeah, you like those shops where you know it's going to be something stupid like a relay or something.
Yeah, man. Yeah, another day in the mobile life.
That's right. I love it. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Another big thank you to Tommy for spending some time with me. I always learn something when I talk to him, and just a great guy to get to know. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the show and for the feedback and for some of the people that have purchased Top Don tools from me. Just another reminder, if you're looking for scan tools, battery chargers, TPMS tools, ADAS stuff, heck, even thermal imagers, Top Don's got a wide offering of equipment. I personally use the scan tools, and that's why I started selling them, so that I could help out the local shops around me when they're looking for solutions to scan tools. They're fast, they're affordable, and for the price point, I think really, really capable. So if you have any questions on any of that stuff, hit me up either on Facebook Messenger or on the email, which you'll find in the show notes of this episode, and I can give you prices, details about the tooling, and answer any questions that you have. I'll also get you the podcast hookup if you let me know that you're a listener of the show. But with all of that out of the way, let's get out there and start fixing the world one car at a time.